This wasn't just another Western. Once Upon a Time in the West was Sergio Leone's symphony of dust, silence, and vengeance, a film that turned the genre upside down. But behind the epic shots and Ennio Morricone's haunting score lies a vault of shocking secrets, betrayals, battles with the studio, and moments on set that nearly derailed the masterpiece. What really happened in Monument Valley? And how did Leone convince Hollywood legends to risk their reputations? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 25 hidden truths you've never heard. The opening took 10 days to shoot. It looks deceptively simple. 3 outlaws waiting for a train. No dialogue, just the creak of a windmill and the buzz of a fly. But what fans never realized was that Sergio Leone spent 10 exhausting days filming those opening minutes. He wanted every sound, dripping water, squeaking door, cracking knuckles, to become its own character. Leone even kept the crew waiting for hours just to catch the right light across the desolate train station. Charles Bronson didn't appear until the very last moment, yet the setup was so meticulously crafted, it felt biblical. Ironically, Paramount begged him to trim it down, claiming audiences wouldn't tolerate dead air. Leone refused. He believed tension was born not in words, but in silence. The gamble paid off. The opening is now considered one of the greatest in film history, proving that sometimes the slowest burn ignites the fiercest fire. Henry Fonda almost turned it down. Audiences gasped when Henry Fonda emerged from the dust, blue eyes cold, pistol smoking. But here's the twist. He nearly rejected the role. Fonda was America's good guy, known for noble characters in The Grapes of Wrath and 12 Angry Men. Playing a child-killing villain? It terrified him. Leone flew to New York personally, showing up at Fonda's doorstep unannounced. He told Fonda to put on black contacts and grow a mustache, but Fonda shaved, revealing those piercing blue eyes instead. "Good," Leone said. "Now when you shoot a child, the audience will never forget it." That moment, Fonda's shocking betrayal of his screen image, became the film's most haunting reveal. Against every instinct, Fonda gambled on playing pure evil, and it gave cinema one of its most unforgettable villains. Morricone scored the film before it was shot. Most directors film first, score later. Not Sergio Leone. He flipped the process on its head. Ennio Morricone composed the entire soundtrack before a single frame was shot. Leone blasted the music on set during filming, letting the rhythm guide the actors' movements. Claudia Cardinale later confessed that she felt like she was dancing to invisible music, every glance and gesture syncing with Morricone's sweeping strings. This approach wasn't just innovative, it was revolutionary. The music wasn't background, it was narrative. Each major character had their own theme. Harmonica's mournful motif, Jill's soaring melody, Frank's brutal chords. When audiences first watched, they didn't just see the West, they felt it breathing. Leone and Morricone's collaboration forever changed the way directors thought about soundtracks. And it's why Once Upon a Time in the West feels more like an opera than a cowboy movie. Monument Valley was a statement, not a setting. John Ford owned Monument Valley. His classic westerns, Stagecoach, The Searchers, cemented it as the mythic American frontier. So why did an Italian director insist on filming there too? It wasn't homage. It was defiance. Leone wanted to reclaim the landscape, saying, "If Ford created the myth, I will bury it." By placing his European vision against Ford's iconic backdrop, Leone made a statement. The era of noble cowboys was over. Instead, his West was cynical, greedy, and violent. Shooting in Monument Valley was expensive and logistically insane. Sandstorms ruined equipment, and the heat nearly broke the cast. But Leone knew the imagery would matter. Viewers familiar with Ford's classics felt a subconscious shock. The sacred ground of the American West was now soaked in blood and betrayal. That visual rebellion turned Once Upon a Time in the West into both a tribute and a eulogy for the Western itself. Jason Robards nearly got fired. Cheyenne, the outlaw with a heart, became Jason Robards' signature role. But what fans never knew was that he nearly got thrown off the film. Robards was struggling with alcohol during the shoot, often showing up late, slurring lines, or collapsing mid-scene. Paramount executives demanded Leone fire him. Leone refused. He believed Robards carried the soul of the movie, the bandit who knew the West was dying. To protect him, Leone adjusted shooting schedules and kept executives offset when Robards was in rough shape. Against the odds, Robards pulled through, delivering one of the most memorable performances of his career. Ironically, critics later praised Cheyenne as the film's moral compass, the outlaw who reminded audiences that even in Leone's brutal West, humanity still flickered. Without Leone's stubborn loyalty, that character and Robards' redemption might never have existed. Charles Bronson wasn't Leone's first choice. Charles Bronson's stoic face and icy demeanor made him perfect as Harmonica, the mysterious Avenger. But what audiences didn't know was that Leone didn't want him at first. The director had dreamed of casting Clint Eastwood again, completing a symbolic reunion of his Dollars trilogy stars. Eastwood declined, tired of westerns. Leone then approached James Coburn and even Robert Ryan before finally circling back to Bronson, who had already turned him down once before. This time, Bronson accepted. Ironically, Eastwood later admitted he regretted rejecting the part, while Leone declared Bronson the greatest actor I ever worked with. Harmonica's wordless intensity, equal parts shadow and storm, proved Leone's instincts were right. Bronson wasn't just another gunslinger. He became the silent heartbeat of the entire film. Claudia Cardinale faced a hostile Hollywood. Claudia Cardinale's Jill McBain wasn't just a character. She was Leone's vision of the future West, where women would survive the collapse of men's empires. But off-screen, Cardinale was met with resistance and jealousy. Hollywood insiders grumbled about an Italian actress leading an American Western. Leone stood firm. He wanted a European star, someone whose presence felt foreign yet magnetic, symbolizing change. Cardinale later admitted she felt isolated during the shoot, often treated coldly by American crew members. Yet her performance silenced doubters. Jill wasn't a damsel. She was a strategist, a survivor, a woman who turned vulnerability into power. In hindsight, Cardinale's casting was revolutionary, forcing audiences to accept that the Western was no longer a man's story alone. She became the film's emotional anchor, whether Hollywood liked it or not. The studio cut 25 minutes without Leone's permission. The version most Americans saw in 1968 wasn't Leone's masterpiece. It was a hacked-down shadow. Paramount executives, nervous about the film's length, cut nearly 25 minutes from its U.S. release without telling Leone. Entire character arcs vanished, including Jill's rich backstory and scenes that explained Cheyenne's fate. Critics initially slammed the film as confusing and slow, unaware they weren't seeing the director's vision. Only years later, when the uncut European version resurfaced, did audiences grasp the full scope of Leone's epic. Today, the restored cut is considered one of cinema's greatest achievements. The lesson? Sometimes, studios are the worst enemies of art, and Leone's masterpiece had to survive mutilation before it earned its rightful place in history. Sergio Leone turned down The Godfather to make this when Paramount offered Leone the chance to direct The Godfather. He said no. Why? Because he was obsessed with bringing Once Upon a Time in the West to life. Leone reportedly told friends he didn't want to glorify the mafia, preferring to focus on the mythology of America itself. Ironically, his decision shaped cinema history. Coppola took the job, and The Godfather became a legend. Meanwhile, Leone poured his soul into West, creating his own operatic masterpiece. Two different films, two different legacies, but both reshaped what audiences thought cinema could be. In hindsight, Leone's refusal shows just how committed he was to finishing his grand Western symphony, even at the cost of turning down one of the greatest films ever made. The Harmonica reveal was inspired by Hitchcock. The most chilling scene in the film comes near the end when Harmonica's past is revealed. A boy forced to support his brother on his shoulders as Frank's men strangle him with a noose. This wasn't just shocking, it was Leone channeling Alfred Hitchcock. He studied Psycho and Vertigo to understand how Hitchcock stretched suspense until it snapped. Leone wanted Harmonica's secret to land like a thunderclap, recontextualizing everything the audience had seen. The slow pan to young Harmonica's face, the piercing music, and the brutal flashback all mirrored Hitchcock's use of sudden revelations. By borrowing Hitchcock's psychological intensity, Leone gave the Western one of its darkest, most haunting backstories. Harmonica wasn't just a drifter. He was trauma personified, revenge in human form. The train station was built just for the film. That dusty, weather-beaten train station at the start of the movie, it wasn't real. Leone ordered his team to construct the entire set from scratch in Spain, designing it with meticulous detail so it looked like it had been standing for decades. The boards were aged with acid, the windows were deliberately warped, and every creak of the doors was planned. Leone believed authenticity wasn't about history, it was about illusion. The set was so convincing that many American viewers assumed it was filmed at an actual U.S. station. In reality, it was a European invention, crafted to look more American than America itself. That's the magic of Leone's vision. He could recreate the West anywhere in the world, and it still felt hauntingly real. Woody Strode's fly scene was totally improvised. In the unforgettable opening of Once Upon a Time in the West, Woody Strode sits slouched at the train station, a fly buzzing relentlessly around his face. Instead of brushing it away, he calmly lifts his revolver, traps the insect inside the barrel, and lets the silence speak louder than words. What most audiences never realized is that none of this was scripted. The fly was a genuine nuisance on set, ruining take after take as it darted across Strode's face at the worst possible moments. Finally, out of sheer frustration and instinct, Strode improvised. He captured the insect in character, turning irritation into a chilling display of cool composure. Sergio Leone immediately recognized the brilliance of the unscripted moment. He kept it, even enhancing the buzzing sound in post-production so it became part of the film's hypnotic rhythm. What could have been a distraction became an indelible image, a tiny detail that cemented the opening sequence's reputation as a masterclass in suspense. It wasn't rehearsed. It was pure accident transformed into cinematic legend. If you're hooked on these secrets, go ahead and like and subscribe, because we're only halfway through, and the wildest ones are still coming. Leone wanted Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Eli Wallach for the opening. The three gunmen at the start weren't just random outlaws. Leone originally envisioned them as a farewell to his Dollars trilogy. He approached Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Eli Wallach to play the doomed gunfighters. Imagine it, the stars of the good, the bad, and the ugly meeting their deaths in silence before Bronson even arrives. Eastwood declined, and the plan collapsed. Still, Leone cast actors with Western pedigrees: Woody Strode, Jack Elam, and Al Mulock, turning the opening into a showdown of familiar faces. The alternate version that never happened remains one of cinema's greatest what-ifs, but the legend behind it only deepens the mystique of that unforgettable prologue. Al Mulock's death cast a shadow over production. Al Mulock, one of the three outlaws in the opening, carried a tragic fate. During production, he leapt to his death from a hotel window in Spain, wearing his full cowboy costume. Crew members were horrified, with some even witnessing the fall. Sergio Leone was devastated, but pressed on with filming. The tragedy only added to the aura surrounding Once Upon a Time in the West, giving the opening sequence a chilling undertone. The irony? Mulock had previously appeared in Leone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and for a few dollars more. His death during Leone's magnum opus gave his performance an eerie permanence. Every time viewers watch that station standoff, they unknowingly glimpse a man who would not live to see the film's legacy. The camera work broke Western traditions. Western films traditionally relied on wide shots, big skies, big landscapes. Leone, however, did the opposite. He pushed the camera dangerously